Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Simon, and in this video I'm going to cover the UNIX Administration grade lab called Backup and Recovery. And thankfully, in my opinion, this lab is so much easier to complete than the previous grade lab that you had to do that was called DNS. If you watched the video I created for the DNS grade lab, you'll remember that what makes DNS so difficult for students is that there are so many configuration files that you have to either modify or create, and the smallest error could be disastrous for the entire DNS system. I'm talking if you forgot one character in only one of the many configuration files that you're editing or creating, then the entire DNS system could go down. You could technically prevent the W01 virtual machine from having access to the open internet at all. And why is that bad? Well, that means that you can't download that grading script, which means that you can't get a grade for anything that you've done. So even though maybe you did everything in the right order, you did all the right steps, you did everything right, 99% of what you did was right except for that one missing character, you couldn't even get a grade for that. So it was such a difficult lab for students, and even just trying to find that one missing bracket or that one missing comma could take you hours. It just wasn't a pleasant lab. It is easily the hardest lab in the course, as I always say. So the good news is that you're done that now. You're now on to backup and recovery, and you're going to see this one is so much easier to do. And the nice thing about this lab is if for some reason you weren't able to do one of the steps, you can still get marked for all the other steps that you were able to complete. So this is so much easier, but you're going to see it gets even easier than that. There is really only one section in this entire grade lab that's challenging, and it's meant to be challenging. You're going to see that you have to go through parts A down to part E. And if you've done the practice lab like you should have, because you should be always doing the practice lab and the grade lab before you watch these videos, then you're going to notice that part A to part D is asking you to do things that you did in the practice lab. All the answers to what you need to do for part A, B, C, and D are in the practice lab. I mean, look at part A. It says create a tar archive. Then the next one says create a gzip compressed tar archive. If you go in the graded lab and you go down to tar command right here, you're going to see create a backup of the books directory, which is creating a tar archive. This is the command, and you're going to be putting that in word for word. And then when it came to the compressed archive, look right here, create a compressed archive. That's the command you're going to use. It is really, really easy. The only thing that's going to be a little bit difficult is this part right here, which is part E. It says migrating data puzzle. What it wants you to do is complete everything you did for part D, but instead of doing it the way that you're probably going to do it, which is through several commands, it wants you to do it in a single command, only using the tar and SSH commands. So I'm going to show you how to do that. That's probably the part where you're probably going to say to me, I didn't understand how I could have accomplished this, and I will show you how to do it. I'll give you the logic behind it. And the good news is you don't have to worry about that being on your test. On your test, they don't care if it took you 18 commands to complete this section. If you get this on your test, they just want it done. So when it comes to the part E, if you found that this was really, really confusing to you, don't panic, because this is really just meant to challenge you. It's really meant to be a fun little puzzle and see if you can figure it out for yourself, and it's not a big deal if you didn't. And I am going to show it to you so you'll understand it, but again, like I said, when it comes to your test, you won't have to worry about having a single line for anything. You just have to do it the way that you can do it. As long as it's getting done, that's all they care about. So with that being said, let's get into this actual lab. What you're going to do, go into VirtualBox and open up that OVA appliance. So find it wherever it is on your computer. Mine's right here. And when it comes to the settings, use whatever you like. These are actually good for what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to hit import. Just make sure that you're importing fresh copies. Don't use copies from a previous lab because that can mess things up. But once you get your fresh copies in there, you can boot them right away because we're going to go right into part A. One of the things I always tell you in most of the lab or the videos I create for all these labs is that you need the DVD ISO, but in this one you actually don't. You can use it if you want. I might use it just to get the man pages working on the SO1 virtual machine, but you don't need this one for this grade lab. So it's up to you if you have it. You should always have it because it's good, but you don't need to have it for this to complete the grade lab. So now my guys are ready to go. I'm going to click start and we're just going to wait for them to load up. I don't need the W01 virtual machine just yet, so I'm going to minimize that and I'm only going to work with the SO1 virtual machine. So I'll bring that guy over here and we'll just wait. And like I said, we're going to start with part A, which is simple tar archives. And I've already given you the hints on how to figure this out. Basically, when it says create a tar archive named temp_books.tar, it's going to contain the contents of the opt Mohawk books directory. Okay, so now that I'm in SO1, I'm just going to log in with root. And I am going to use the password admin pass. You should know that already. And like I said, the answer is in the practice lab. If I go in the practice lab, I go to part C, which says the tar command. We can see right here, step 1 says create a backup of the books directory. And it says tar cf temp/books.tar, which is what it wants us to create. And it wants it from the contents of the opt Mohawk books directory, which is where it wants it to get the content from for the grade lab. So you are literally just writing this word for word. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to say tar cf temp/books.tar. So that's the file we're going to be creating. And then the next argument is going to be where we're getting the information from. So we're getting the content from opt Mohawk books. And when you're done, you hit enter. And you're done. Don't worry about this little message where it says tar removing leading / from the member names. That's normal. That's fine. And if you want to make sure that it's done, you can say ls/temp to list all the files in the temp directory. And we can see right here it says books.tar. So you're going to say, well, that's cool, but you know, what does this all mean? I mean, what does the CF mean? Well, this is where I would download the man pages and look. I mean, what it is, and I'm going to tell you right away, but I'll show you how I found this answer out, is you're going to say with the tar command, which is creating an archive, we want to create. So C is for create, and F means we're going to create from the files in this directory. So C is for create and F is for files essentially. So that is what that means. You're basically saying use the tar command to create an archive from the files of this directory, and we're going to call that file temp/books.tar. So it's going to go in the temp directory and it's going to be called books.tar. So I hope that's easy to understand, but again, I'm just going to show you where I got that. So I'm going to go optical drives and I'm going to load my CentOS DVD ISO image because I'm going to install the man pages. I'm going to say mount /dev cd-rom and we're going to say yum install man. Yes. And we're good. So let's just clear this and let's say man tar. So that now that I've said man tar, we can see right here, I don't know if you can see what I'm looking at, but it says tar-cf and it's calling the file archive.tar and it says foobar. And it says it's going to create the archive.tar file from files foo and bar. So these two files will go into this archive right here. So CF is just creating an archive based on these files. And if you wanted to, you can scroll down and you will see that the C stands for create. And if you go down a little bit further, F stands for file. So there you go. All right. So let's move on because we can go to the next part of the grade lab, which says create a gzip compressed tar archive named tempbooks.tgz containing the contents of opt Mohawk books. So once again, I showed you this already. If you go down from the tar command to this part, step 3, it says create a compressed archive. So this is the command to create a compressed archive using tar. Now, if you look at this, it's a little bit different. It says tar C for create, Z for compressed, and then F for the files. And this one says /temp/books.tar.gz. Don't be confused by this. You can call this the TGZ as well. That's fine, and you're going to see that you can do it as with the cpio.gz as well. It's just basically creating a compressed tar file. So don't be afraid that these are different and think, oh, that means that that's not the right command. It is the right command. We're just going to make sure that we're calling it what the grade lab wants, not what this line says. So we're going to put this in right now. Basically, we're going to say tar, once again, we're going to say CZF for create a compressed file. And then we're going to say temp, and this time we're calling it books.tgz. And let me just make sure I wrote that down right, tgz. Okay, perfect. And it's going to be of the same content from opt Mohawk's book again. So we're just going to say opt/Mohawk/books and hit enter. Once again, you can ignore that tar removing leading /remembers. That's fine. That line's fine. Everything should be good. If we say ls/temp, we can see now we have the books.tar and we also have books.tgz. So everything worked out perfect for part A. So we can move on to part B now. So with part B, we're now working with CPIO archives, all right? So when you go to your practice lab, just go down to part D, which says the CPIO command. Now, what it says right here is we have to create a CPIO archive named tempbooks.cpio. And it still has to contain the contents of the same directory we're using all the time, but it says make sure the archive uses relative paths. So when you go into your actual practice lab, you're going to see that right here it says create an archive of books with relative paths. So here's what you have to do. You have to go into the opt folder. You're going to find the contents of the books folder or directory, and then you're going to pipe it over to this command. It says cpio-o and then redirect, which is that arrow, and then you're going to call it whatever you want. So it's not going to be books_rel.cpio. We're just going to call it books.cpio. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to say cd /opt, and now that I'm in opt, I'm going to say find.mohawk. So we're going to say /mohawk books. Pipe that over to cpio. Make sure it's -o, and then you're going to redirect that to temp books.cpio, and we're calling it books.cpio because that's what the grade lab wants us to call it. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to hit enter, and we can get an error, so that's really good. And if we say ls temp, we can see now that books.cpio is there, books.tgz is there, and books.tar is there. So it's all there. We're doing good so far. Let's move on to the next part. So the next part says create a gzip compressed CPIO archive named temp/books.cpio.gz contain the contents of opt Mohawk books. It says make sure the archive uses relative paths. So once again, this is where it's saying we want a compressed archive. So what we're going to do is you're going to probably look here and say, well, I don't see anything about it using a compressed archive. But what we're going to do is just go back up to the tar command, because we are going to know that this is how we can make a compressed archive. All we're going to do is use this exact same thing, except instead of /temp/books.tar.gz, we're going to say /temp/books.cpio.gz. And that's going to work just fine. So let's do that. We're going to say tar CZF for create compressed file /temp/books.cpio.gz, and then it's going to be the contents of opt Mohawk books. Hit enter. Again, don't worry about that little message right there. All you have to say is ls/temp, and we can see that we have books.cpio, we have books.cpio.gz, books.tar, and books.tgz. So everything is where we need it so far. We're done part A, and we're done part B. So we can now move on to part C. And part C says incremental archives with tar. Okay. For this section, you will create an initial level 0 archive and one incremental level 1 archive. Use tar's built-in support for incremental archives. All right, so it gives you a bunch of things that you need to make sure that it works out to be the way it needs to be. It tells us a bunch of requirements. All you need to do is go into your practice lab, go to the very bottom. You're going to see part E right here, incremental backup with modern tar. And this is all you have to do. There's 3 lines. The first one is tar create file. You're going to say temp and then whatever it is. In this case, we're going to be using temp opt_set. All right. And then we're going to call the first one level_0 tar. And it's going to contain everything from opt. So instead of this, it's going to say temp forward slash opt underscore set forward slash level underscore 0 dot tar. And then we're going to say dash dash listed dash incremental equals, and we're going to say temp forward slash one more time opt underscore set forward slash, and then we're just going to say opt dot snar, and then space forward slash opt, because that's what it wants us to do. But that's basically the command that we're going to use. So I'm going to type that in right now for you. So first of all, you have to make sure you create that file. There's a directory that it wants us to create it in, which is called opt underscore set. It's not going to work if you don't create that, and a lot of students forget that. So make sure, we'll clear this. Oh, clear. We're going to make directory, and it's going to be temp forward slash opt. I can't spell for some reason. Sorry about that. Okay, so opt set. So now that we have temp forward slash opt set created, we're all good. We can finally create this really long command, which isn't going to actually fill the screen. It's going to go to one level down, so it's going to look messy, but just follow it the best you can. And we're just going to type this out. So it's going to be tar-c-f temp ops underscore set level underscore 0 dot tar, then space dash dash listed dash incremental, okay, equals forward slash temp forward slash, once again is going to be opt underscore set forward slash, and we're just going to call it opt dot snar, and then space forward slash opt. That's it. Hit enter. Once again, don't worry about that little message that says tar removing leading forward slash, but we've now created our level 1 tar file. Alright, so now what it wants us to do is it wants us to basically create a new book. Okay, that's what he says right here, create a new book. So we did this part, we created this folder, we put down that command so that we created our level 0 tar file, and we made sure it was of the contents of opt. So now we're just going to create a new book in that books directory that we're always going to, and you can call it whatever you want. So what I'm going to do is just say echo, my name is Simon and I am awesome, I swear. And I'm going to redirect that into opt Mohawk books, and I'm going to call it Simon is awesome.txt, and hit enter. Everything is fine. So now if I say ls opt Mohawk books, we're going to see we have Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if that's a spelling error or if there's actually a actual book called Sherlock. Simon is awesome, and War and Peace. So that's perfect. So now we have this new book in there that I created. It wasn't there in level 0's tar, but we're going to make sure that it goes into level 1. So how we're going to do that is we just have to do this guy down here. So it looks very similar. We're going to say tar dash cv now dash f, and what that's going to do is it's going to only pick up anything that's new. It's going to say anything that's there from before, don't worry about putting it in the incremental backup, only grab the new stuff. And we're going to go back here and say make sure it's temp, in our case it's going to be opt underscore set level 1 dot tar, and then we'll do the same thing, the listed incremental equals temp opt underscore set opt dot snar, and then we're going to just put opt here, and we're done. That's it. So let's do it. We're going to say tar cvf temp opt underscore set level 1 dot tar dash dash listed dash incremental equals temp opt underscore set opt dot snar, and then of opt. Hit enter, and look at that, tar removing leading forward slash. It's looking, and the only thing that it notices that's different is Simon is awesome, and it's telling us that. So it's saying the only thing that we're really going to add is Simon is awesome, because that's the only thing that's changed, and it's put it in there. So we just completed part C, and that's it. It's really that easy. Like I just showed you, part A, B, and C so far, I've just copied these commands word for word almost. Really easy, really simple to go through, really quick to go through. So now we can go to part D and we can do this. And I'm not going to show you how to do it the way that you're going to do it, because how you do it is fine. That's okay. What I'm really going to do is just focus on part E, migrating data, and it's the puzzle. It's doing all of this, but it's doing it with a single command line that you're going to pipe between tar and the SSH command. So let's just look at part D so that you understand what you have to do. It says our backup and recovery tools can also be used to migrate data. For this exercise, we will create a copy of the home Alice from W01 to S01. So it says copy the contents of the home Alice from W01 to a home Alice on S01, preserving all metadata. You may use any commands you like, including cpio, scp, tar, rsync, and ssh. So you can do whatever you want here. Essentially, it just says basically do whatever you need to get this in there. Just make sure it preserves all the metadata. And then it says write a short description on how you accomplish this task in a file on SO1 named temp/migrate.txt. Okay, so do that however you like. I'm going to show you how to do all of this with a single command line, and I'm going to explain how we're going to do that. So let me show you what that command line looks like, and then I'll talk about exactly how this makes sense. Okay, so like I said, just stay with me. I promise you this will probably confuse you at first, but I'll do my best to explain it. So first of all, we're going to minimize this guy, and we're going to go into W01, and let's log into W01, because remember, we have to make a copy of Alice. All right, so we're going to go here, go into System Tools and Terminal, and remember, I can only use tar and SSH, so it's got to be one single command line, and I'm going to pipe between tar and SSH. So this is what we're going to do. The very first thing I'm going to do is let's create a tar archive of the Alice home directory. So I'm going to say in here tar, and then I'm going to say CFP. And what that's going to do is it's going to create the files. So you know what C and F does, but P is basically going to preserve all the metadata. So that's why you have the P there, and I'll show you that later with the man command. But basically just know when I say tar CFP, you know C means create, F means files from the directory, and then the P is going to be to preserve all metadata, which is what it wants us to do right here. Okay, and then I'm going to say dash, and you're going to say, wait, don't I put the file that I want right there? Well, I'm going to be piping the information over somewhere. So right now, I don't want to put it anywhere. I just want to put a dash for now, because I don't want it to actually leave this line just yet. But I do want to say where I want to get this information from. So I want to say home Alice, because that's all the data that I want to move over to the SO1 machine. So once I've done that, I'm going to pipe that over to SSH, and I'm going to say root at 10.1.1.20, or you could have just said at SO1. Doesn't matter. And then I'm going to say tar again. So let me explain what I'm doing so far. Tar is going to be creating a file from this directory, and it's going to preserve all of the metadata, but I'm not going to put it anywhere just yet. I'm going to keep it here. So we have all this information, and then I'm going to move all this information to SSH, where SSH is going to go and log in to SO1. But once it gets to SO1, what it needs to do immediately is it needs to extract it. We need to put it in SO1 so that the home directory of Alice gets created on the SO1 virtual machine. So I have to tar it again. And what we're going to do is extract it. And this is where it's going to look really confusing. So I apologize, but I'll explain it the best I can. We're going to say X to extract, V for verbose. So we're going to extract all the information. You're going to see all the information. Everything's going to be exactly the way it was. And then we're going to say dash dash file equals dash. So it means basically put the same file here that I created, the home Alice, take all that information, keep it the exact same, and then I'm going to say dash dash directory, and that's going to equal the home directory. So remember with, let me just grab something here. Remember if I say ls / and hit enter, we can see that the / has a lot of different files, right? And one of the files it has is home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract this information, and it's going to be called the same thing. It's the exact same thing, but we're going to put it in the / directory, because the / directory is where we have the home. So that home is going to be in that directory, and it's going to put the Alice directory in that home. So I know it looks weird, but if I hit enter, watch what happens. Actually, first, let's go into SO1 so you know I'm not tricking you. Let's just clear this. Let's say ls-l /. Okay, so when we look here on SO1, look at everything we have. We do have a home right here, right? So let's actually look at that home. So let's say ls-l / home. I have nothing in there. There's nothing in there just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter now. So let's hit enter. And it's going to say, oh, you have to put in a password. That's normal. So admin pass. Wow, look at all that. It just showed us a ton of stuff. And it might look scary, but all it did was take everything from the home Alice directory and it put it on the SO1 home directory. So now that home directory has an Alice. So if I do the same thing, I'm just going to push up. You can see it says ls-l / home, and I hit enter. I now have Alice there. And if I look into Alice, I have all of her stuff, everything there. So that's really, really awesome. So that's how you do that. So let me explain it again, because you're going to be like, can you just go over that one more time? And I definitely have no problem doing that. So what I did was this. I said tar create a file from the directory home Alice and preserve all of the metadata in home Alice, but I don't want to put it anywhere just yet. Usually right there is where you put the file that you want to create on the same system that you're working with, but we don't want to do anything yet, so we didn't put anything there. So then we piped it over and we said, let's now log on to SO1. So SSH root at 10.1.1.20 logs into SO1. And we said, once you get on SO1, use all this stuff that we've just created, because that's now data that's just kind of lingering. That data is now going to be extracted. So we're saying tar that data. We're going to extract it for both. So it's going to show us all the stuff that's going to be creating. And instead of putting it into a file called something, we're just going to use the exact same name, home / Alice. It's going to be the exact same information here. And we're going to put that in the / directory, which is where home and Alice needs to be, because it's on this directory. We wanted to make sure when I say cd / we're in that directory that will now give us home and can also give us Alice. And so that's why I said -- file -- it's basically saying keep the same information, don't change that, and in the directory of /. And that's what we got. So as you can see, you only needed to do this to basically complete part D. So look at all these things. You have CPIO, we didn't have to use that. SCP, we didn't have to use that. rsync, we didn't have to use that. There are so many things you didn't have to use, but if you did, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. However you figure it out is the only way that really matters. So once you're done, just remember that you have to write a short description on how you accomplish this task, and then same thing here, using only tar and SSH to complete it, create it, and then once you do, write the command that you used in a text file on SO1 named temp / puzzle.txt. So that's it. I hope that really helped, but just in case you're like, well, let me see that what you did actually makes sense and it works for the script, I'm going to run the script for you. So just hang on, and I'm almost done, but you're going to see what the script should look like. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to write a quick description just so that that shows up. So what does it want me to do? It wants me to echo, this works because I am awesome, and we'll put that in temp migrate.txt. There we go. So now if I ls temp, we have the migrate.txt, so that's good. And then what does it want us to, it wants the puzzle one, so we're going to do one more. Echo, this worked because I am still awesome. Always have been. I'm so cocky, and I'm really not in real life. It's just because you can't actually see me right now. That's why I'm pretending to be cocky. All right, so just make sure that you write these things, otherwise you're not going to get the marks. You have to, you know, explain this in your own words. But now I have the puzzle and the migrate.txt there, so that's perfect. That should give me all the marks that I need. I'm going to log into the eLearn website, get that grading script, and run it. And once again, guys, I didn't say this earlier, I don't believe, but if you have any questions about any of this, I know that I said it's really, really easy, and I hope that I'm not insulting you if you found it difficult. But once you know, you feel like you're struggling with anything, always just send me a message and let me know, and I'd be happy to help. And again, I apologize that sometimes I do say things are easy, and it's not always easy. And I know that I struggled with this the first time that I went through it, especially with that puzzle. That puzzle, even though hopefully I made it seem really easy, that was so difficult that I actually had the teacher work with me to figure it out. And the two of us actually went on the board, and we were like logically trying to figure out how to do this. And once we figured it out, it was like, oh man, that makes perfect sense. I don't know why that was so difficult, but when you don't know how to do it and when you're learning it for the first time, it's obviously going to be difficult. So if you struggled with it, don't worry. Hopefully I helped you. And if you have any questions, please just give me a comment and I'd be happy to help. So let's go down to backup and recovery. Let's download this file and let's send it over. So we're going to say SCP, sorry. I have to unzip it first. I apologize. Unzip, downloads, host, and then SCP host root at SO1. We'll put in the TMP folder. There we go. Now let's just go into that folder. So cd temp, run that program, or that script, sorry. There we go. Let's SCP that back to W01. And now we can finally look at it, and you can see your reward, I guess. I don't even know. You might have been like, I don't really care, but that's okay. Temp, Firefox, and SO1. Here it is. Let's take a gander. All right, so hostname SO1, that's perfect. You can see the date. And then when you go here, it says Part A tar, and it's going to say War and Peace, War and Peace. That's normal. All it's doing, just so you know, is when it goes to here and it says Simple Tar Archives, it's just looking for the first file in this this archive and the first file in this archive. So both of them will be War and Peace because it's the same content from the same directory. So that's the way it should look. So that's fine. And then it says Part B CPIO, and it says War and Peace again. So it's just looking for the very first title in it, which is perfect. And then right here, Part B compressed CPIO, and you can see that works as well the way that we did it. So we didn't have to download the gzip program or anything like that from the DVD ISO. How we did it with the, which one am I on right here? How we did it with this command worked perfectly. You can see that it still picked it up, so that was great. And then when it came to the incremental archives, we can see it's looking for the level 1, which means this is the only file that should be in there because that's the only new file that we created in that opt directory that was different from the level 0. So this is exactly what you want to see, and that's perfect. And then you have part D, and it says contents of home Alice. So it's looking on SO1 to make sure that you have the contents of Alice here. And we can see it's all here, and that's perfect. And he's going to look for the dates as well because this is when he created it. So everything should be there the way that you see it on mine. So that worked perfectly. And then part D, migration strategy. This is not what you want to write, but you are going to want to write something on how you figured out how to do part D on your own. And then you're going to figure out how to do part E, and you're just going to write, like I said, a text file, and you're just going to put it in there, but just make sure the text file is named what he wants you to name it. So if you go to here for part D, he wants you to call the first text file explaining how you accomplish your task in temp/migrate.txt. So figure this one out for yourself. See if you can do this one on your own because your explanation here should be different from others, even if you did the same thing. And then for part E, you're going to create a new text file called puzzle.txt. And that's what these two are. So you're just going to create your own. But that's what it should look like. And if you do this and you get all of this down, then you should get 10 out of 10. So hopefully that wasn't too difficult. Like I said, it's so much easier than DNS one in my opinion. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. But good luck on your test coming up. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next video. All right? Take it easy, guys. Bye.